everyone, welcome back to QSR Nation, your weekly source of food service marketing and business strategies for success. Here are your hosts, Josh, Beth, Tony, and Grant from the PFS Brands National Headquarters in Holt Summit, Missouri.
Hey everybody, welcome back to QSR Nation. As always, we have Beth, Grant, Tony, and Josh here from the PFS Brands National Headquarters in Holt Summit, Missouri to talk about food service marketing and business strategies for success.
We got the whole band back together.
I'm so
again.
glad to be back.
Are you?
Yeah. I can tell.
Yeah, I can definitely see.
Yeah.
Combo work.
Yeah. I don't want to dwell on that too much. But today we got a pretty interesting topic. We're going to talk about patience and impatience when it comes to business and marketing. How you can be too patient on some programs and that will never actually pan out, or you can be too impatient and pull the plug on programs that would do great for you if you give it time.
Well, exactly.
We have the poster child of impatience here.
That would be me. But no, I mean, my biggest thing with this subject is, like, in the marketing side especially, we have, great business. We want to get out there. We want to promote. We want to do these things. We want to get customers in the door, right? And so we go out and we say, I'm going to do radio. And then 4 weeks later, nobody's even mentioned my ad. This isn't working. I'm wasting my money. I'm pulling the plug on this and I'm done. See, I mean, that's classic impatience in the retailer's mindset, because regardless of what you do, unless it's an event-driven moment that it's X amount discounted for this period only, you need to be patient and look at it. It's probably going to be 8 weeks before someone begins, or not someone, but to be able to see measurable increase on your branding campaigns and just begin to see that return. And then probably about between weeks 8 and 13, it really starts to pick up, and you start to see that. But you don't just cut the campaign off there. I mean, if you're going to invest in radio, my personal opinion, if you're doing less than 26 weeks, you're wasting your money. But when you do that, you really should invest and be very patient, because it's hard when you might spend $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in a marketing campaign, and it take a full quarter to beyond before you actually start to see any type of residual. And that's a lot of money out front. It's a lot of cash flow. It's a lot of faith in whatever medium or whatever program that you put together that you're going to have out there. So you do have to be very patient. You need to go into it with that mindset, and don't fool yourself with it. Don't say, hey, I'm good with this. I understand it's going to take a year to build the audience I want. I understand it's going to take 6 months to build in the traffic I'm looking for, and then 8 weeks in be throwing a hissy fit because you're not seeing what you need.
And not just being patient, but also having the budget set aside so that you're committed to. So you get through 8 weeks and you decide you don't want to keep forking out the weekly or the monthly expense that it takes to create that campaign. So you just make sure you have your budget set aside so that you don't have the option to pull it out later or too early. So.
There's so few things that are to give you an immediate ROI. So just knowing what programs, if you are a person that you are very patient and you like to see how things are going to roll out, but if you're an impatient person, pick those mediums that you know that you're going to be able to handle and read and understand that the ROI is going to be later, but see those like small measurable scales that you can get your satisfaction of, or understand how you're going to be able to decide whether or not I am going to move forward with this, even though I'm not getting the ROI immediately. But you just have to understand that going forward.
Yeah, for sure. And I think even if you're like just trying to grow social media, if you're trying to go organically without any budget at all, you better be in for the long run, because you're going to have to take a ton of patience to be day after day, post after post. But it doesn't look like much is happening, but your reach is slowly expanding, so it's going to take a lot of patience for something like that.
And I think there's also a huge misconception too that like social media or digital marketing is some kind of silver bullet. I mean, you could go dump $400 in your ad budget today on Facebook sponsored ads. Okay, you could push that out there, roll with it hard, and not see the return that you could have seen if you did $100. And at the same time, you may not see a return at all, because depending on what your offer is, what you're trying to achieve, I mean, all those things come into play. I mean, again, if you're looking to build your business, I mean, this is you didn't just open your doors to have a few sales and close. If you did, that's called a garage sale. I mean, you need to be in it for the long haul, so you have to understand it does take time. And when people say time, because we're such an impatient society anymore, everything's quick on our phone. I mean, even stoplights seem like forever. Popcorn in the microwave. Are you kidding me? What, 3.5 whole minutes? I mean, all those things. It's funny how we don't adapt that. And understand that, hey, this is just a moment. Yeah. And in business, a moment could be a month. A moment could be a quarter. A moment could be even beyond that. So it's understanding that there has to be a commitment level, like you said, Grant. Set that budget aside. Understand that you are in it for the long haul, and if you need to tweak things along the way, that's fine. But don't pull the plug.
No, I agree. You brought a good point about how people are so impatient now in general. Like tonight, we went to a conference with the girl with Google the other day?
Yes.
It's not really a conference, lunch and learn or whatever. And but one of the point he made was like, now people get so mad if it takes like 30 seconds for their Netflix movie to buffer and load. But back in the day, you had to drive to Blockbuster, you had to pick a movie, you had to rewind it, then had to watch it, and then take it back, and that was fine.
I used to have
now,
I used to have dial-up connection. I used to sit there for like 10 minutes waiting for a page.
it's just crazy. Just have patience. But then on the flip side of that, how can being, I guess, too patient affect your business?
Well, I mean, that could be in terms of if you set a goal and, whether it's, let's say even with staff, you've got, Johnny and Mary, and you've gone through things with them, multiple times, and you're still having issues. One, first of all, make sure that you've done everything that you need to do to give them the tools they need to succeed. Yep. But once you've gotten to that point, you have to have that conversation of, okay, Johnny, here's the deal. You still aren't doing what I've asked you to do. You're still not performing. Is there anything that I can do that's going to help you be able to get this and understand it and actually achieve these goals? And if Johnny says, no, you've given me everything, well, that might be your sign right there that it's time to move along. But if you decide, well, but he's a good guy, I mean, I think eventually, blah, 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 and you keep Johnny on, and Mary's getting it, and but Johnny's not. I mean, at that point, you're being too patient, and I'm not saying that I ever want to cut anyone loose. I've had to do that before in previous jobs. It's the most unappealing thing about being in a leadership position anywhere is when you have to make that decision. But whether it's with personnel or whether it's with a campaign or just your overall branding, if you're not seeing results down the road, like we talked about, if it's a 6-month goal and you're not hitting it, you're not there, you need to reevaluate and decide, is this where I should pull the plug now? But if, like we were talking about radio, if the goal is a year, then you got to stick with it. But if a year and a half, you're still not seeing any, 2 years, you're not seeing anything, now are you investing or are you spending money?
But yeah, that's a good point. But also make sure you're, as you know this, be optimizing the entire time you're doing it as well.
Absolutely.
Don't just keep doing the same thing over and over and it's not producing results. Always be testing.
I think some people think too, like, oh, it's working. I'm still getting clicks, or I'm still getting, some people walk in. You have to change up your advertising or whatever medium it is. So whatever the content is, make sure that okay, this is working, this is still growing, but if it's starting to kind of get to a steady level, don't be afraid to change it. You can also do a mix-in. Still do the same campaign, but just start adding in little things that's going to try and just generate some new business. So don't get too patient with the fact that it's somewhat working, so I just won't touch it at all.
Yeah, and it's important with radio or any other type of advertising medium, but to set those expectations beforehand. Right. Like, talk with your radio rep and say, in 6 months, here's, some numbers we'd like to see. And so that way you have, a goal at least. And then so if 6 months comes around and you're not seeing those results, then maybe you can start, maybe you don't completely leave radio, but maybe you alter your plan to hit a different radio station that maybe you think maybe that fits your demographic a little better or something like that.
It's good to have that clear line of sight starting out.
Yeah. Well, and again, to help define your patience and impatience, is all about setting a goal, having good communication with the companies that you're utilizing for, delivering your message, with your team members for executing, their job duties, so you can run an efficient and profitable business, and keeping everybody in the loop. I mean, we have the open book management here. We share numbers as a company, within departments, from fuel costs to, labor costs to food costs. I mean, we understand what's going on. Maybe make sure that your team understands what's going on without the full communication. Same way with expectations with whatever mediums you utilize. Make sure that those representatives understand, because if everyone has a clear sight of what the goal is, what the needs are, and what this has to accomplish, it's easier to maintain the patient's level, achieve your goals, or as we've said, pivot. Maybe not jump ship, but pivot and create those additional things to generate the goal-driven part that you need.
And it'll be easier to have that tough conversation with the rep if things aren't working the way you'd like, and you need to move to a different strategy. Then it should make it easier to have that conversation too.
Well, absolutely, and that will also generally help your team members and those representatives of those mediums work harder to achieve those goals, because you're having those communications and they're measurable.
All right.
You make me want to watch that episode of Friends where they keep yelling "pivot" the entire time.
Pivot.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Oh, that's a good one.
I'll have to look it
I'll
up.
send you the video. It's so
Afternoon
good.
We'll
is now
post the link.
scheduled.
It's such a good episode.
And if you guys have any questions or want us to help you with your goals or just talk to any of your current marketing plans or anything, reach out to us at QSR Nation at pfsbrands.com. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast at pfsbrands.com/podcast. And I would like to thank Grant for doing the intro last week.
Anytime, Josh. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
from now on.
And what I said about trading you out, that I didn't really.
Yeah, I did hear
that.
I didn't really mean that.
Tony's the only one that actually stuck up for me, Beth.
Sorry. Sorry.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, no problem.
I had to figure all this equipment out and everything else all by myself.
Good job. Does anybody have anything else to add on this? Impatience or patience?
Pivot.
Have a safe holiday next week.
That's a good point. Yep, everybody have a good 4th of July. And for Beth, Grant, Tony, and Josh, we'll talk to you next week. Or the week after.
This podcast brought to you by Grit Summit 2019. Powered by PFS Brands, join us at Grit Summit September 24th through the 26th in St. Charles, Missouri at the Maristar Hotel. Early bird registration ends July 15th, so be sure to visit gritsummit.com now to register early. That's grit with 2 T's, summit.com.